Hey, hello.
Hello, Slam. This is John McDonough in Chicago.
Yes. Hey there, how are you?
Pretty good.
All right.
Sorry we can't meet all around a pot of coffee in person.
That's what I mean, you know.
But you got a comfortable chair there?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I just started my dinner.
You just started your dinner?
Sure, right.
Oh, would you want us to call you back, or you...
Well, you want to call back in about an hour?
Oh, an hour. Gee whiz.
Or even before. Let's leave it like it is.
Okay, fine. Well, let me give you John here. This is John Bany.
Bany,
Chicago bass player,
yeah.
And so it's one musician to another from now on.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Slam.
Hello there, John.
How are you?
How are you?
This is a pleasure for me.
Oh, yes, indeed.
I've been a deep fan of yours, man, since about, 36 years ago.
Yes, how about that?
My father played bass,
Yes.
and he started playing just exactly like you for so many years.
No kidding. How about that?
And this is my first meeting with my master.
Oh,
you are the one for me, you know.
Oh.
It's my thing in life is to get musicians to understand just who Slam Stewart was.
Yes.
And myself too.
Well, I'm still trying.
I'm working with a group here in town called the Swing Tet.
Swing Tet.
Where Fabs, rhythm guitar.
Right.
I don't know if you know any of the guys. Don DeMichael you might know.
I don't think I do.
He's with Downbeat a long time.
Oh, yes.
So I got about 58 million questions.
Yes, well, go right ahead. I'll see if I can answer them.
Okay, the one that most people want to know is how did you get the name Slam?
Oh, yes. Well, this goes way back around the year 1935, let's see. I had just came out of music school, Boston Conservatory of Music. And I ventured more or less back home to, which was at that time, Englewood, New Jersey, you know.
That's where you were born.
That's right. And, of course, that's right across from New York City, so that was my beginning to start out in this business, you know. When you mentioned how and where did I get that name Slam? Well, the reason for that is I met another fella, and his name was Slim.
Slim Gaillard.
Slim Gaillard. So anyway, we got together on an occasion or two and formed a team, just the two of us. And we wanted to find out what we could do about this name, you know, to make it a little more commercial. As a matter of fact, if we had used my real name, Leroy, you know, it wouldn't have sounded too good, you know.
So who came up with
Slim and Leroy, you know, or something like that.
Who came up with the idea then?
Well, we kind of got our thoughts together, and we decided that due to the fact that I slapped around with the bass fiddle at that time, we just came upon the name of Slam, you know, because it was so close, you know, like Slim and Slam, Slim and the Slammer, you know, one of them kind of things, you know. And that's how we came upon it, really. You know. It was quite a thing, you know. And
you met him?
That was close, you know.
You met him at a place?
I met him uptown.
Jock's place in Harlem?
That's right. Yes, it was kind of a jam session.
I was going to ask you, like, what was the size of the joint, and what was the, you know, the ambience? What were the people like?
Well, it was one of them after-hour places too. You know, we used to go up there. It was just a normal bar, like, you know, where people used to drink, and they had entertainment there, a piano player or something like that. But it went on after even the place closed.
Yeah.
It went on after hours, more or less, and the cats used to come up to this Jock's place, and we used to jam and what have you. That's where I met Slim. And that's where I also met Art Tatum later on, you know.
Yeah.
And well, that was quite a place, and that was the beginning, more or less, of my musical happenings.
I wanted to ask you. Let's see. Well, you were in Englewood, then you were in Newark, right?
I played in Newark with a fella by the name of Sonny Marshall, and he had a little group there. He called it the Broadway Stompers, I think it was. A little band, a little small combo,
When did you leave Englewood?
Well, I didn't. Well, I left more or less when I went to Boston to music school.
Yeah.
That was in 34. And of course I used to go back and forth between when I was up in Boston. I would stop over at home, but I stayed over in New York more or less, and I hung around New York more so than I was around home.
Yeah. What did you study in Boston Conservatory?
Well, I studied solfeggio and ear training. And of course, the ear training came pretty easy to me because I had a pretty good ear then,
Yeah, I can sense that.
But I studied mostly the technique of bass fiddle.
Yeah.
And that was it,
I was going to ask you about that because almost every picture I see of you, you're not using your little pinky on the left hand,
That's right. In fact, I did study more or less. I didn't carry it through, But I formed my own idea of the easiest way to play that thing.
Right. That's exactly the way my dad played.
Yes.
And I watched Milt Hinton
Yes.
today. He plays exactly like that. He'll play either way. Either way.
Sure. Yes. Sure.
It just seemed like a real natural, easy way to play that style of music.
That's right. Without using your little pinky too much.
Yeah.
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 I usually use my the third finger from as a rule. I would use my little pinky.
Yeah.
The one next to it.
Right, the third one.
Yeah.
Who were you like your first idols on bass?
Well, it's hard to say. The cats. The Brogue, who was the fellow who was with the Duke and
Jimmy Blanton?
Oh yes, Jimmy Blanton was one of them. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like, who did you first see playing bass?
Well, let me think now. There was a fellow who used to be with Cab Calloway, I think it was. His name was Green something. Of course, it's hard to say, but this fellow who was with Cab Calloway's band, he used to dance around with his bass in a circle,
Yeah,
jump around with it.
They were some kind of showman.
Yes, and I forget his name. That's actually the first bass player that I came in contact with and actually saw, But anyway, I used to love all the cats,
Now, where were you about this time?
I was at home. I was
Englewood?
in Englewood, yes. That's even before I went to study,
Yeah.
And his name was Green something. He used to play with Cab Calloway.
I've got a name here that I'm real interested in. Ray Perry, a violin player.
Oh, Ray Perry, yes.
Can you tell me about him?
Well, while I was in Boston, I was playing with a group there. And let's see, Dean Earl was the name of Everett Earl. He's a piano player.
Mm-hmm. That's another one I was going to ask you about, Dean Earl.
Dean Earl, yes.
Yeah.
And he had this group which I joined while I was even studying up in Boston. This was around the latter part of 34. And of course, in this group, along with us, was Ray Perry. He played his alto sax, and he doubled on little violin.
Yeah.
And of course, he also sang with his little fiddle, which is a very interesting point. That's where I got the idea of playing the bass fiddle with the bow and singing along with it. You know, that's where I got the idea.
That's what I was wondering.
From Ray Berry.
Uh-huh.
And that's...
Many people ask me that question.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and I always did wonder about that. That was one of the first questions I wanted to ask you.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh. And that's where that...
So he was like a jazz player, right?
He was a jazz fiddler, somewhat like Hezekiah, Leroy Stuffsmith.
Yeah.
And what have you, Eddie South and what have you.
Uh-huh.
And he played real good, too. He doubled, his major instrument, I think, was the alto sax, you know.
Uh-huh.
But he, I don't know, maybe the fiddle was his major, but he played them both real good.
That gave you the idea about applying it to the bass.
That's right.
And as far as I'm concerned, that was one of the landmarks in jazz.
There you go.
Really?
Now,
Who was Jabbo Jenkins?
Jabbo Jenkins was the trumpet player.
Oh, and they was on the same band.
He was in the same group.
Sabby Lewis?
Sabby Lewis. No, Sabby had another band which wasn't far from where we were playing, up the street there on Columbia Avenue, I think it was, in Boston. You know. And Sabby had his own band. But Sabby also played piano, you know. But what I'd like to say about that idea that I had to saw the bass with and hum along with it was quite an interesting thing. When I first started doing that, I tried to do exactly like Ray Perry. He used to play his little violin and sing in the same register as his fiddle, way up high, you know. I don't see how in the world he did it, but he did.
Yeah.
Real high, you know. So when I started with the bass fiddle, singing with my bass fiddle, I tried to sing in the same register as the bass. Mm-hmm. And that kind of messed it up a little bit because of the fact that my voice wasn't low enough.
Yeah, your voice is high.
It's more or less high.
Yeah.
And my voice I didn't quite make it with the voice department until I got smart and raised my voice an octave above the bass line, you know.
And that really made that texture.
And so that is when that all started to work out all right, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been able to do that.
Now, Major Holly, I just had the pleasure of talking to him.
Oh, yes.
Talking to him about you.
That's my boy. Yeah.
You know what he said? He says, I just had one of the greatest pleasures of my life. It was just a little while ago.
Oh, yeah.
I says, what's that? He says, I recorded with Slam Stewart.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And I knew right then and there he and I were like partners, friends for life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
I got to keep asking you about these guys. Who was Peanuts Holland, Buffalo?
Peanuts Holland was a fellow after I had left Boston. In fact, in between going back home and when I went out to Buffalo to work with Peanuts. And that was, the early part of 1935.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a combo. I worked with him at a place called, I forget the exact name of the place, but you probably have come across the name of that place, where I worked with him. But anyway, he had a small combo out there, a trumpet player he was. Mm-hmm. And I joined him and stayed with him for, about 4 or 5 months. In between the time, just before I met Slim Gaillard.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
Yeah, and of course, that was, like I said, that's a little after I had left Boston, and between, just before the time I met Slim.
And then you had a radio show at WNEW in New York?
That was it. Slim at that time had a sustaining program on this station, WNEW.
Uh-huh.
And Slim asked me to join him which I did on this sustaining program, broadcast, you know. And
how many years did that last?
That didn't last too long. Oh, it lasted about 4 or 5 months after I met Slim.
Oh, I see.
And, of course, the main thing about that was the head of that station, WNEW, was a fellow named Martin Block.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the president of that WNEW. And Martin Block, he became our manager, Slim and I.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of worked all right for us, especially after we had done this program, after I had joined Slim on the sustaining program. That meant a whole lot for us because Martin Block, being our manager, he did quite a bit for us, you know.
Yeah, he was your Joe Glazer, sort of.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And he helped us out quite a bit. And that was the beginning.
Did you ever play tuba?
No, I never did.
I
studied
so.
it for a very short while, but I never did go into it. I let it go, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. I was stuck with the old bass fiddle, which I still am, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what were the sort of your personally, like what were the effects of Flatfoot Flugie
Well,
in those tunes?
and those
Groove
tunes,
Juice Special.
Well, I tell you, Slim did most of the writing. I collaborated with Slim on a couple of things, especially Flatfoot Flugie and Tutti Frutti.
That turned you into national stars.
And Buck Dance Rhythm and what have you, know. Because that Flatfoot was our big one, you know.
That's what really turned you into
That
like
was,
a national recognition.
That was it.
When you
yes.
got that.
Yeah.
Who wrote the Bassology? I was interested in that.
Bassology, that was one of our numbers we collaborated on.
Yeah,
Right.
I enjoy that one a lot.
Bassology. I can barely remember some of those things, you know.
Yeah.
Once in a while, a lot of people ask me about those numbers, and I try to remember exactly the solo, especially what I played, you know. Sometimes I have to think awful hard because, you know,
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, I listen to them every day, just about. And,
Well, for goodness sakes, yeah.
Slim went in the Army in 1942, is that right?
41, I think it was.
41?
Yes, right.
And you had to break up?
And we broke up, yes.
I cannot picture that cat in the Army.
Well, I couldn't either, but he was called on to go.
What did he do?
Now, that I don't exactly know. I think he did a lot in the music department in the Army. I'm sure he must have entertained or what.
He played guitar?
He played guitar.
Did he also play piano?
Guitar was his major.
Uh-huh.
He played a little bit of piano, and he fooled around with the drums and what have you, and the vibes and what have you. He taught me how to dance. We had a little dance routine. We had quite an act together, you know.
Oh, yeah, I can just imagine that.
It was something else. Yeah.
Did you have to go in the service?
No, I didn't make that. No.
How's come?
Huh?
How's come you didn't make it?
Well, it's one of those things where...
You just lucked out?
Well, I don't say I lucked out, but I wasn't, what do you call it? They call it I couldn't pass the test or some
Physical?
Physical or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But that's the way it turned out, yeah.
Yeah, well, anytime. I'm glad you didn't have to go myself.
Well, I would say that I'm sort of glad I didn't have to make it, but if it happened otherwise, I would have been put all I could into it, you know.
So you and Slim had to break up?
Well, yes, we broke up, and I hadn't heard from Slim since then for almost 25 years.
Is that right?
I hadn't heard from Slim up until about a year or two ago, you know, or even before then. In 1970, I think it was.
Uh-huh. You did
I heard from him in 1970, and he called me from California to ask me to join him to play the Monterey Jazz Festival, which I did, and that was the first time I had seen him since we had broken up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right about then, in 1943, you did a movie, Stormy Weather.
That's right.
Fats Waller?
Fats Waller, that's right.
Was in that, and Ethel Waters?
That's right.
Can you tell me some things about how that came about? Who approached you and what happened? How'd you get it?
I was out, we were out in California at that time. We had left the New York scene, and I was living in California.
Uh-huh.
So, fortunately, we had William Morris, who did a lot of our booking out there.
Uh-huh.
So, through that agency, we got to make this picture, you know. Of course, Slim wasn't with me on this particular picture because Slim and I were on a couple of others, like Hell's a Poppin', and This is the Army, and those pictures. I was with Slim on those.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Stormy Weather, I wasn't with, Slim wasn't with me on this one.
So the guy just came up and says, we're going to make a movie, Stormy Weather, we want you to be in it.
That's right, yeah. Sure.
Beautiful.
And that was great, you know.
This is one of my biggest questions.
Yeah.
Now, who decided, or how did it come about, that you be the bass player with Art Tatum Trio?
Oh, yeah, Art Tatum. We used to call him Hot Potato. He was quite a dear friend, you know. In fact, I met Art in New York at this Jock's place, and of course, I didn't see Art anymore until about a year or two later when I moved out to California, you know, with Slim, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I met Art again.
In California?
Yeah, right. And, of course, Slim had to go into the Army beforehand when we were out there. And this is where I met Art Tatum again, at an after-hour place up on Central Avenue in Los Angeles there, at a jam session, in which even Tiny Grimes was on that scene that night. And that's where Art asked me to join him. He was doing a single at that time, and he asked me to join him. And he also asked Tiny Grimes to join him at that time, which actually happened.
So
that was the start of the Art Tatum Trio.
The master...
which I was so happy to be with, you know, because that was quite a beautiful experience.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, it was. I learned an awful lot from Art Tatum.
Yeah, that truly has got to be one landmark.
That's right.
In jazz.
Right.
And you met Tiny Grimes at that time out in California?
At the same time, yes. Right.
Yeah. And now when or why did you leave Art Tatum?
Well, I didn't exactly leave Art. In fact, after we played in California for quite a while.
And you recorded out there?
We recorded out there. And, of course, we stayed, a couple of years out there. And eventually, we moved back to New York City, the Art Tatum Trio. And we played one place on 52nd Street called the Three Deuces.
Three Deuces, yeah. I bet that was one wonderful time.
That was it, you know.
Yeah.
And, of course, we recorded more so.
Now, who else played with you at Three Deuces? Johnny Guarneri?
Johnny Guarneri played with me at the Three Deuces. Of course, I tell you what, after a while, Art became ill. And while we were together, it so happened that Art had to leave, you know. And so somehow the boss and I got along very well at the Three Deuces. So he put me in charge of the situation. I had to go on back to California. And at that particular time, there's where I had to look around for a pianist to take Art Tatum's place, you know. So anyway, it so happened that Earl Garner was doing a single.
I was just going to ask you.
Down the street from us at a place called Tralles.
Uh-huh.
That's where Earl Garner was. And I thought maybe if I would get a hold of Earl to see if he could help me out to fill Art's place, you know.
Uh-huh.
So that I did. I maneuvered. I went down and talked with Earl, and thank goodness I was able to get a hold of him. It was all right with his manager down there where he worked, you know.
Yeah.
And he came in and filled in for Art, and that was the beginning of my trio with Earl Garner, you know. And that was a beautiful situation.
And that was also with Tiny Grimes, or that was Sammy
No,
Weiss?
at that time, Tiny Grimes had left, and I had Everett Barksdale on guitar.
Uh-huh. When did Sammy Weiss start playing with you?
Sammy Weiss was on the scene
And didn't he
on
play,
and off.
He played at Three Deuces.
He played with me at the Three Deuces, yes.
And there's a place called Kelly's Stable.
Kelly's Stables, yes. Right.
Remember, what were some of the things happening? I mean, these sound like just beautiful times and beautiful places to me.
Yes. Now, that is one place I played with Slim.
At Kelly's Stable?
It's the Kelly's Stables.
Uh-huh. Who were some of the other guys that you worked there? I mean, I think that Coleman Hawkins used to come in there.
Coleman Hawkins, yes, right. I did a couple of things with Coleman Hawkins and Roy Aldridge. And
Yeah, right.
Over at the, what was the place across from the Three Deuces? Well, the Onyx Club and what have you, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's a long story, what I mean. If I can...
And Sid Catlett.
Sid Catlett, oh, yes. And John Collins. John Collins was on...
I was wondering when you got together with Beryl Booker and John Collins.
Oh, well, Beryl Booker, that so happened, it happened in the Three Deuces.
Uh-huh.
After Earl Garner had went his way.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, even before then, after Earl left, may I say this, Billy Taylor filled in for Earl Garner.
I was going to ask you about that.
That was before Beryl Booker.
Yeah.
In fact, Billy Taylor filled in after Earl left, and Billy had something else to go into. So that's when I got what's the name? Beryl Booker, yes.
Uh-huh. She must have been real nice.
Oh, yes, she was.
Yeah.
She was beautiful, yes. All the way.
Now, Roy Eldridge was also around Kelly's Stable at that time.
Oh, yes.
Is that right?
He was around Kelly's Stables, yes.
Do you remember a bass player? He's here in Chicago, Chuck Parham.
Chuck, yes.
Mm.
Yes, I remember him.
He just wanted me to ask you. He knew I was going to call you.
Oh.
He wanted me to ask you. He says, when are you going to send him that 5-string bass?
Oh, for goodness sakes. Well,
did you ever use a 5-string bass?
I tried it out, but I never did go in for it because that added string, that hot top string, I imagine it would have made sense in order to make things easier to reach those higher notes. But then it took something away from the sound of that fifth string, made the bass sound something like a cello. What I mean, it wasn't all that basic, you know.
Yeah, the texture was a lot different.
That's right. And, of course, why lose your bass, your quality of your bass with an added string like that? So why not just go the way it should be, you know?
On the end of, maybe you remember this, maybe not. I think you will. On the end of Play Fiddle Play.
Yes.
And you your left arm goes all the way to the bridge.
All the way, yes.
You've got to be a kind of a tall or a lanky man.
Yeah, that's right.
Because when I do it, I just about put my shoulder out of joint.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
To get the
all right.
to get the bow underneath your finger down at the bridge.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the way you play it perfectly in tune.
Right.
And also the end of bassology. Which came first, bassology or?
Bassology came second.
Came second.
Yeah.
And you put the same ending on that?
No, I didn't exactly put the same ending on it.
But you went right down to the bridge with it.
I went just about to the bridge. No, Play Fiddle Play is the one that I go even higher.
Yeah.
Nearer to the bridge.
Yeah. That's a technique that I think most bass players don't even know is there.
Yeah, well, that's right. I have my little secret about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You wrote a book called Styles in Jazz Bass.
That's right, yes.
Now, I'd like to know why you wrote it.
Well, I wrote it with some help.
Mm-hmm.
This fellow, I forget his name, but anyway, Styles in Jazz, and it was just one of those things that happened.
What did it basically cover?
Well, it covered tunes, mostly tunes, and technique. And if I don't exactly remember the book too well, I haven't even looked at it in years. What I mean, it was just one of those things that happened.
I tried to get a copy of it. I couldn't get a copy of it anywhere.
Right.
So it's not in print still, huh?
It's not in print, but I have a piece of a copy. I think what I should do is to have it do something about having it reprinted, or even go into making a better book. You know, one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're somewhat of an educator now too. You're teaching at Binghamton.
Well, that's not exactly teaching. It's one of those part-time things where it's a history of jazz, lecturing and what have you.
I see. Like Teddy Wilson did for a while there.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
I haven't actually taught any bass fiddle or what have you.
I read that you did something at Yale.
At Yale.
Was that the same kind of thing?
Workshops and what have you.
Uh-huh.
And performances, mostly.
Yeah.
Yes.
How can I get a copy of Jazz Styles and Jazz Basses? No way, huh?
I imagine I can... I'm not sure. I'm going to try to dig up some kind of a way where I can have some copies made, or try to get in touch with that company some kind of way. And I would like to especially do that and update it, you know, one of those kind of things.
When did you meet Benny Goodman?
Benny Goodman, I met him in 1945.
And that was another landmark.
Oh, yes.
What I really want a lot of musicians to understand is who the musicians were that everybody's heard of. They chose to play bass.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, once the musicians understand that, and most people, they don't. That's very strange to me.
Right.
But Benny was one that was with... Red Norval was with that?
Red Norval was with the sextet.
What was the original? The first Benny Goodman sextet.
The first Benny Goodman sextet.
Or the first time you played with Benny, I mean.
Well, at that time when I joined him, his brother was Harry was playing bass with him.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Red Norval was with him on vibes, and Teddy. And, let's see, they had I think Gene Krupa did a couple of things with him, but eventually another drummer, a young drummer, Benny had, his name was Maury Feld.
Feld?
Feld, F-E-L, I think it was. Maury Feld, F-E-L-D, something like that. But anyway, and on guitar, Mike Bryant was with him on guitar.
He's on a couple of the cuts in the Born Singing Slam
Yeah,
album.
right. And of course, at the time when I joined Benny, I was on 52nd Street at the Three Deuces.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Benny was doing a show right not too far from the Three Deuces on 6th Avenue. It was called Seven Lively Arts. That was the name of the show. It was a kind of a musical show. And his Benny's brother, Harry Goodman, was playing bass with him on this show. And Harry had something else to do, so fortunately, Benny he came by one night to the Three Deuces to see what I was doing there. And he asked me to come do the show with him in between, while I was playing at the Three Deuces.
So you replaced Harry Goodman?
I replaced Harry Goodman, yes.
Did he just get tired of playing, or what was happening?
I don't know exactly what happened, but, you might say, fortunately, Benny asked me to join him.
Yeah, fortunately.
Truly. I had a pretty good experience with Benny, It's been wonderful,
Somebody said that's...
Even now, this is my second time around with him. I do a lot of work with him right now.
I understand that. You were just...
In fact, I have a great admiration for Benny's talent and musicianship. He's real great, Real great.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That is for sure one of the greatest
beautiful, yes.
jazz groups that ever existed.
Like a lot of cats, I've heard stories, and I happen to know that a lot of the musicians don't get along with him hardly at all. It's kind of rough with them, But I've never had any trouble with Benny at all. What I mean, it's been real great all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know Michael Moore?
Michael Moore, yes.
He's
a beautiful young bassist.
Oh, yeah.
He's beautiful, yes.
This is a funny question. What size shoe do you wear?
No, that's...
I got a reason for it.
I wear one of the big ones.
You're not going to disclose that one?
Got a little story to tell you behind that, too, maybe.
Yeah?
But I wear size 12.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
I know why I'm going to ask you that.
Yeah, all right.
And I want to ask you a lot about this one time, is with Don Bass, you and Don Bass.
That's, all right, go ahead.
And the third party out of that duo was your foot.
That's right.
It was...
That's right. And I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was percussion. It was definitely musical percussion.
And that thing we did at Town Hall.
Yeah, would you tell me how that came about?
Oh, boy. When we were doing this show, Mr. Don and I, and along with other musicians, and along comes the intermission,
Uh-huh.
as usual. And somehow, during intermission, the fellow who ran this show, Timmy Rosenkrantz, I think his name was,
Uh-huh.
he seemed to come up with a big idea. He asked Don and myself, he asked us to, just the two of us, why don't we start out the second half, after intermission, just the two of us, to go out on stage and play a couple of numbers to start it out, which we did, but it was kind of a funny situation. Don and I started wondering what in the world just the two of us could do, But anyway, it came to the point where Don and I figured out, well, let's go out there, just two of us, and play a couple of tunes.
Yeah.
And we might come up with something anyway.
And you just brought the house down.
And the couple of tunes that we had, was I've Got Rhythm.
Indiana.
And another tune that we did. But
Indiana.
In Indiana, that's right.
Yeah.
So this, I've Got Rhythm. What I mean, we made it right through it. What I mean is it got kind of good,
Yeah.
It kind of got to me, and I was stomping away, and I know you could hear the size 12 shoes, at times.
That's right.
That was it.
Yeah. It really was a complete texture. It was a complete sound.
I'm just wondering, a lot of people, I was just wondering if they heard that,
Well, they might have and not know what it is.
That's right. And I was just wondering if I know you picked up on it because when you told me just a few minutes ago that you were going to tell me a story about that.
Uh-huh.
I know you picked up on it, yes.
In the jazz folklore, it's rumored that everybody was down at the watering hole, and there were only two guys left. That was you and Don Bass, but that isn't really the way it happened, right?
No, that's not the way it happened.
That's just one of those good stories.
No, that's you know how they write sometimes. Every writer has a little different way of doing it, and
right.
And they don't tell the truth all the time,
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, that was it. I've got rhythm. Stomp.
Can you remember who was all on that date?
Oh, it's hard to say at the time. Right now, that is. It's I can't remember offhand.
Okay.
I can look it up, of course.
Now you work with Benny Goodman how long? Well, you still are, but I mean.
From 45 up until about the middle of latter part of 46.
Uh-huh.
And then I went my own way,
Uh-huh.
And I hadn't even heard from him until the years had passed. I heard from him again. This is my second time around with him.
Yeah.
I heard from him again in 1973. And he gave me a call, and I'm still with him more or less, every now and then. I've done quite a few concerts this time with him, and I still am.
Yeah.
I'm going to, this coming Saturday, I'm going to Atlanta, Georgia on a concert with him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you just played Syracuse?
I just played Syracuse, yes.
I got to ask you now about Lester Young.
Oh, yes.
Lester left Count Basie, and he says, I got to get the best bass player there is.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
That's what I'm figuring he must have thought, so he got Slam Stewart.
Yes.
It was you, Johnny Guarneri, and Sid Catlett?
That's right. That is right.
And that was Lester Young's quartet.
That was Lester's the prayers, his quartet.
Did you play any clubs, or did you just record?
No, we just recorded together.
Uh-huh.
And it was a beautiful session, too.
Yeah.
And I never will forget that thing, just you, just me, and sometimes I'm happy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the other greats. Now, the other, Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker, yes. I did a few things with him, along with just Dizzy Gillespie.
According to Ira Gittler,
yeah,
it's Slam Stewart was the one that really helped Charlie Parker to take wing and start to experience a freedom that he really he got famous after playing with the rhythm section with Slam Stewart in it.
Oh yes, well yes, I imagine that even not only Charlie but a lot of the fellas and whom I've worked with, they seem to like my rhythm bass,
Yeah, you give them a freedom like no other bass player.
How about it? Yes, I always try to be, I don't want to take away from anything, especially if they're doing solos and what have you. I always try to be cool with it and play the right notes, the right background and what have you, and be real cool with it. I think it enhances the musicians, especially while they're trying to think about their own solos and what have you.
It seems like that's the first time that he got the idea of just what he could do.
Yes, right.
Just what he could do as a musician.
Right. Uh-huh.
And that's another big landmark in jazz, I believe.
Oh, yes. I'm almost sure. I've enjoyed making recordings with many of the cats and what have you, and I've always enjoyed playing with them, and stick with that good old bass, the background, and let them go for themselves.
Yeah. You're constantly listening.
So happy that it has.
Well, the masters.
Helped,
And then so far, I've only mentioned a few: Art Tatum and Benny Goodman,
yes,
Lester Young and Charlie Parker. You were for sure one of their favorite bass players.
Oh yes, I'm very happy about that.
All the jazz fans, they know their names, but they don't really. Slam Stewart isn't exactly a household word to them.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and then I'm going, well.
Yes.
Well, they have to understand that these masters are the ones who chose this particular bass player.
Oh, yeah.
And it happened so often.
Right. Well, I'm very, very thankful about that.
Yeah.
And like I say, I'm still trying to stay in there,
And Dizzy Gillespie too was on those cuts.
Oh yes, right. I made quite a few recordings during my career. I've made well over 300 sides or more with different groups, and what have you.
What sort of man was Parker?
Well, Parker was quiet and a beautiful fellow, and he was nice. We got along, and everything was beautiful, all the way.
You see a lot of the bop players, they got into hard drugs. I mean, did you see some of the cats do that?
Oh, yes. I went through quite a few little episodes with those cats, watching them. It was pretty hard to understand and realize that they were making life a little short and what have you,
Yeah.
I felt very sorry for them,
Yeah.
What can you do, It's just one of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
Fortunately, I never did get into any of that kind of thing. Thank goodness,
Yeah.
I'm very awful sorry to hear about those things, and whatever. May the good Lord be with them.
Right.
All the while.
When was
most of them are gone,
You worked again in the 50s with Art Tatum.
Yes, right.
Let's see, when was the last time you worked with?
The last time, I think, was around just before he passed. I think it was in 56, was it? Or 65 was it when he passed?
It was I think it was 55. Yeah.
55, 56?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think it was 56.
And that was the last time you worked with him?
The last time I worked with him.
That was with Tiny Grimes, too?
No, I think at that particular time, it was John Collins.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was John Collins. Yeah.
And
Art had Tiny Grimes, Everett Barksdale, and John Collins with him. John was the last.
Then you work with Red Norville, All Stars.
Red Norville, I recorded with the All Stars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's 1945.
Right, 1945, right.
Yeah. Now, with Red Norville, Teddy Wilson, and Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, Flip Phillips.
Yes.
And you did the Congo Blues.
Oh, Congo Blues.
Hallelujah.
Yes, right.
Get Happy and Slam Blues.
Slam Blues, right.
That is a landmark album.
Oh, yeah.
I believe.
Uh-huh.
Truly.
Yes.
How did that album come about?
Well, he got all the cast, Red got all the cast together. I think we were all working near and on the street, 52nd.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where Red called on me to be his bass man,
Yeah.
And and got all the cats together, and boom, that was it.
And then Lionel Hampton in a group called Just Jazz All Stars.
Yes, I remember that session. That was a concert in Chicago, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
I think it was in Chicago, where, let's see, it was a concert in 1947.
Right.
And I forget the name of the place, but anyway, I was Lionel's bass man, and at the same time when we were making that concert, we were being recorded also, and that's how that came about.
There are disc jockeys here in Chicago who still play those cuts.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like on a rather regular basis.
Right.
Count BJ is one.
No, let's see now. I think I'm mistaken. That was on the West Coast. That was in Pasadena.
Uh-huh. You mean when the recording was made?
And when we did that concert.
Oh, I see.
It wasn't Chicago. I'm sorry. It was in Pasadena.
And the concert was recorded?
And the concert was recorded at the same time. And that's probably, you have heard one of those numbers I did, what was it, Stardust?
Yeah. Yeah.
Honey, money, it ain't funny if you ain't got no money, or something like that. I took off on that bass chorus, you know, where that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many landmarks, and and I'm going to make sure that everybody knows about my man Slam.
Oh, for goodness sakes, I sure appreciate that.
Then
I don't know. I sure would like to meet you one day, and we can have a little get together.
That'd be my total pleasure.
Yes,
sure would
indeed.
be. I was going to say, when did you meet Rose Murphy?
Rose Murphy, I met her during the way, let's see, I'm not exactly sure. I met her in the 60s, I believe it was, the late 60s. I got together with her and did a duo with her for about a year or two. I think that was around 67. Oh, maybe a little bit before. But we were
Well, it's
together.
not in the 50s, then, huh?
No, I don't think it was in the 50s. It could have been the late 50s. It could have been.
Why'd they call her the Chi-Chi girl?
Why did they call her the Chi-Chi girl? Well, she had this high voice when she used to sing. And, you know, it was kind of a baby voice-like. And she had a habit of singing on certain numbers, especially the one she did of I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And she used to say after I can't give you anything but love, Chi-Chi, or something like that. I don't know where she got that from, but that was one of her numbers that she featured where she used the Chi-Chi thing. So that's what they call it, the Chi-Chi girl.
And in 1945, you won the downbeat poll?
Yes, I did. The jazz downbeat poll for the all-around jazz basses and what have you.
That's when downbeat
Metronome,
was truly esoteric magazine, and a musician winning the poll then was truly the tops in his field.
Oh yes, I think that was it 45, was it?
1945.
45, yeah.
And you also won the metronome poll,
yes.
and the Esquire Silver Award.
Esquire, yes. Right.
Were there any others?
No, I think that was it, yeah.
Well, that's plenty.
Well, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And it says you played with some chamber music quartets.
Yes, I played chamber music and with the Illinois string quartet and what have you. And I've done quite a bit of classical music and what have you. You know, like I had special arrangements made for me. I played with the symphonies, such as the
Indianapolis Symphony.
Indianapolis, right? and of course the Binghamton Symphony right here at home, and what have you, and the BC Pops right here in Binghamton, and I'm looking forward to going up to Boston to play with the Boston Pops, you know.
When is this going to come about?
I think it's going to happen sometime this coming year. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's really great. I was wondering why the Indianapolis Symphony? How's come them?
Well, it so happened that I got a call from them. I don't know exactly how that came about, but fortunately, I had some special arrangements made for me, and that was a beautiful occasion. And I never will forget it. It was great.
Who wrote the arrangements?
A young gentleman by the name of Jack Martin, a friend of mine here in Binghamton.
Jack Martin?
Jack Martin, who was a beautiful musician and especially a writer. He's now in Nashville, and he's doing a wonderful job of writing, especially for singers and what have you, especially Kenny Rogers and what have you, you know. And
yeah.
He's a beautiful. He also plays bass fiddle, too.
No, I see. That's
he's
a
an
connection.
all-around musician. He plays bass, trombone, trumpet, and what have you, piano. And
anybody that plays string bass has got to look first at Slam Stewart. That's the truth.
Oh, thank you.
What kind of bass did you play?
Well, the fiddle itself, it's the one I have now, which is my baby. It's a German make. I forget the exact name of it, but anyway, it's a German plywood. And I've had it for the last 25 years or more. And I also still have a K bass, you know, one of the K basses that they made.
Yeah. What did you play about when you were with Art Tatum?
With Art Tatum, I had this K bass.
That's what I thought. It looked like a K bass in all the pictures, but I wasn't sure.
Right.
I got it written down here. It looked like a K.
That was a K, yes. Right.
And you still got that bass?
I still have it.
That must be an extra special K.
That's an extra special one. Of course, my German basses, I use that mostly because it has even a better sound, and that's my pet, you know, the German bass.
What kind of strings were you using then, say 1945, their guts?
I was still using mostly Rondeau, the guts.
Yeah.
And, of course, my E string, the lowest one, I used to use a Tomastic steel rope core.
In 1945?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know those strings went back that far.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's what I was using. Of course, at times I did use gut wound E, but eventually I might say, maybe I didn't exactly use the Tomastic until about maybe the 50s, you know, something like that.
What was the string height? Was it rather high?
The who?
Your string height, the height of the strings.
The height of the strings from my fingerboard.
Right.
I would say I used my strings rather high. I'd say almost a half inch from the bottom of the tip of my fingerboard.
Yeah.
Almost a half inch from the fingerboard.
A lot of the newer bass players, you know, they put the strings down very low, and then they rely on the amplifier for the effect.
That's right.
And there's not that percussive effect, then you lose it.
And they seem to think that it makes it easier to play a lot of notes faster.
That's it.
You know,
and it loses so much of the.
It loses a lot of the tone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially the attack.
That's right.
You notice any big changes between, say, basses and strings between 1940 and 1980?
Well, I haven't had the opportunity to work with any any of the basses, the string basses. I don't know. I don't think maybe they are making the basses even as good as they used to. I don't think so.
Yeah, you got to find an older one.
A lot of the basses have gone in for the Fender anyway, you know.
What kind of strings are you using now?
I'm still using Red Ray.
The gut. Yeah.
I'm still using the gut.
That is that's the sound.
And that is it. I will never get away from that. Of course, I've tried to play with the steel strings, you know, but they don't have that sound. They don't have that tone, I don't believe.
What about the feeling of the string? It's different, too.
They feel different. Much different, yes.
You know, the bow quiver, I've seen some pictures of you, and you have the bow quiver on the G-string side of your bass. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
Now, did you think of that, or did you see somebody do that? Now, that makes so much sense to me, and I don't see anybody else doing it.
That's right. Because of the fact that was the only way that I could actually put it onto my bass, the attachment. And of course, I figured it out where I couldn't put it on any other way.
Well, a lot of the bass players, they put it on the E-string side.
I know it.
And that makes the bow actually farther from your hand while you're doing pizzicato work.
That's right. But there's somehow the pickup that I have.
You couldn't put it on that side?
I couldn't put it on that side.
What kind of pickup did you have?
It was, and still is, a Djordje.
Oh, yeah. It goes on the belly of the bass.
That's right. And that's the reason why I put it on that side.
Did you ever mess around with that, it was a
Polytone?
Stereo, no. It was a stereo pickup. One of them, one part of it went under the bridge. It was called an Ampeg. That's what it was.
Well, I have an Ampeg, but I still use the Djordje pickup with it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I noticed some of the basses that had the pickups, they had the pickup right in between the bridge there.
Right.
You know, with the sharp points sticking into the bridge.
Yeah, and then there was a mic going right up the center of the bass with the Ampeg.
That's right, yeah.
Had to get a bass maker to install it.
That's right, yeah.
Did you, when I notice on recordings, you switch from pizzicato to bowing extra fast.
Well, yes.
How do you do that?
I don't know. Well, I imagine that...
do you keep holding the bow, or do you put it down?
No, I put it into my shaft, you know. Let it hang right there in front of me. And it's right there, more or less, where I just reach over real quick and it's, make my position right there, and I just start bowling.
Yeah.
No trouble at all.
That makes so much sense, and I don't ever like to tell another bass player what to do.
That's right.
But that sure makes a lot of sense to put the, I call it a bow quiver. What do you call it, a shaft?
Quiver, the shaft, the bow shaft, and it's right in front of me, or in front of the string, more or less. And when I'm picking right there, or what have you, and just reach down across to that. No, I haven't done any. No. No studio.
Just never got the calls, or never cared for it?
I never got the call in the first place, so I don't know. I probably would have gone in to do some of it, but I never did get any call to do it.
I was going to say, who's one of your favorite bassists?
One of my favorite bassists? Well...
Then and now, or just ever?
Well, I would like to say Major is one of my... He's one of my boon coons, you know.
Oh, yeah. I enjoy him.
Yeah, right. And, of course, Ray Brown, you know. And
the Red Calendar?
Red Calendar, yes, of course.
Did you meet...
And Richard Davis.
Oh, yeah.
And, what's the other...
Did you meet Jimmy Blanton?
Jimmy Blanton? Oh, yes. He was late. He was great. And another youngster who has just come up, Ben Brown. Have you ever met him or heard about him?
No, I haven't.
Ben Brown. He's with Dizzy. He's done a lot of work with Dizzy Gillespie lately.
Is he electric bass player or upright player?
He plays upright.
Uh-huh. Last time I saw Dizzy, he was using an electric bass player and electric guitar.
And I think he plays, Ben, he plays the electric also. The Fender, you know. And,
did you meet Oscar Pettiford? You must.
Oscar, oh yes, he was great, yes.
He was a bowing artist.
Yes, he was. And he did a lot of work with the little cello, you know.
Yeah.
And I imagine he tuned that cello just like a bass. That's the reason why he did a nice job with it, you know.
Yeah. Tuning fourths.
And let's not forget Larry Ridley.
Larry Ridley.
Yeah, right.
Uh-huh. Was he from West Coast, though, right?
I don't think he's, you mean presently?
All the things I remember hearing is I thought it was West Coast.
I think he's now he's at the Rutgers University here back east. In fact, I'm going to do a thing with Larry and at his place at Rutgers the 20th of this month, of January, rather, the 29th of January.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going down there to do a little program with Larry and the staff down there at the Rutgers.
Did you ever meet Pops Foster?
Pops Foster, yes, I did. And he was quite a bass player and quite a fella, you know, Pops Foster. Oh, yes.
I would really like to hear a little more about when you first heard Jimmy Blanton. Was he the first bass player you heard, like,
yes,
doing that?
I heard Jimmy. He did a beautiful job on it, and he did quite a bit of bowing too, you know.
No, I didn't know that.
He did some bowing, yes, but his main thing was pizzicata, you know, and he really did beautiful. In fact, we had a couple of little sessions out in California there in L.A. When I first met him. You know, he was with Duke, and we had lots of get-togethers, and we were great friends, and I just loved him. He was great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Any of the newer, well, I call Gary Carr is not really newer, but you ever run across Gary Carr?
Gary Carr, yes. I've met him on occasion, and he was quite a bassist, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about newer guys like Stanley Clark?
Stanley Clark. I don't know if I've ever met him.
Yeah, that's one of the ones he sets his strings exceptionally low and gets a lot of speed.
Oh, how about that?
And then there's another one, Jaco Pastorius.
No, I never met him.
It's another era, really, altogether.
Yeah, right.
It's another way to approach a bass.
How about Percy Heath?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's another one.
Yeah, he's a marvelous all-around bass player.
Yeah. Oh, there have been quite a few goodies. And of course, another friend, Milt Hinton. And
I see Milt from time to time because
oh, yes, right.
I see him at festivals every now and then.
Oh, yes, right.
He's a very popular bass player with just about everybody. Everybody just loves the judge.
Oh, yes, that's right. He's the judge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the fact that there's a critique in the Smithsonian Institute?
Yes.
It's on it's a record, a critique of a record of Teddy Wilson that you're on.
I'm on it. Uh-huh.
And Nat Hentoff refers to your humming and bowing as a gimmick.
Oh, yes.
Have you ever heard people apply that or read it about yourself?
Well,
saying it's a gimmick. What he thinks is that you're faking the overall effect, and I know you're not. And I think the bass player that hears you knows you're not.
Well, I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of people mention that particular thing that he wrote about it's a gimmick. A lot of people, quite a few writers have called it a gimmick, but it's not really a gimmick. To me, it isn't.
No.
And I'm real serious about that. Of course, that's the way they think of it, as a gimmick. Of course, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, what can you tell them? How would they know? one way or the other.
I'm never supposed to get mad, but that makes me real angry when I hear that.
Oh yeah, well, what I mean that's the way it happens a lot of times. They just don't know. You know.
I'd like to get that fixed myself. I want to get that removed or else redone. I believe it was Nat Hentoff that wrote it.
Nat Hentoff?
Pretty sure.
He probably wrote that.
I'll have to find that out from him, I guess.
Yeah, sure, right. But maybe that's their way of expressing the happenings, you know. They don't know how else to say it, you know.
Yeah, they're not.
Sure.
They're not bassists.
Although that they might think the world of you and all that, so they just go about it and do it the best they can, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a man, Dick Katz, and he was writing.
Dick Katz, I've heard the name.
He was writing on Oscar Pettiford.
Yeah.
And he's saying the art of bowing is a relatively primitive thing in jazz bass playing.
Uh-huh.
That's a quote I'm reading.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He says, I feel that only until recently are some bass players now getting into it with any skill.
Yeah, right.
The improvising and the ideas were always good, but the actual playing, it left something to be desired.
Right.
And then he says, Slam Stewart was really very fine.
Oh, no, that's beautiful.
He was probably the best until very recently. I got to ask him now, who in the heck is better than the master himself?
Oh, for goodness sakes. Well, now. Well, maybe he has some ideas.
Yeah.
I'd like to become acquainted with any bass player who uses that bow, you know.
Yeah.
Really. Because it's one of those things that I'm still trying to learn even more so about it, the whole situation there. And I just love it when another bassist comes along and does a good job of bowing, you know.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, you're going to be playing with Benny Goodman now, and are you still teaching or doing concerts, or what are you doing at Bingham State?
I'm not at the State University at the time, no.
So you're just playing?
I'm just playing now and then whenever I more or less feel like it. I wait for the phone to ring, you know, and I have to take it kind of easy. Can't overdo it, you know. I just had a beautiful birthday not too long ago, and I'm very thankful to the dear God that I'm still here. And I reached the age of 65, and I'm still trying, you know, to stick with it.
Do you still see Red Norval?
Red Norval once in a great while.
And you don't see Slim anymore?
I don't see Slim hardly at all. Once in a while I get a call from him. But like I say, it's just one of those things. I did see Red, if I remember correctly, at not too long ago in New York City at the Prez Award, what they call it, the naming of 52nd Street to Swing Street.
Oh,
you may have read about that situation.
Uh-huh.
And that's the last time I saw Red Norval at the happening, the Prez Awards, you know, what they were giving out. I was part of that scene.
Uh-huh. You're one of the most recorded musicians, really, of all time. Do you have any idea how many albums you're on?
How many albums or recordings? Like I mentioned a little while ago, I must have made well over, I don't know, at least 350 sides, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them classic.
Now, I just made a recent recording, which is a tribute to New York. Now, this particular recording or two that I've made, it's coming out on the Stash label in a few weeks, I think. In fact, it's coming out in January, and it's a tribute to New York. I'm doing a couple of things on it, which may be interesting, you know, which I sing on it and play my bass on it. One is called Manhattan, that number, Manhattan.
Yeah.
And the other one is the Sidewalks of New York, you know. East side, west side, all around the town, you know, one of them kind of things. You know?
Yeah.
And it's a tribute to New York City.
You know, there's something
coming out soon.
I wanted to ask you right in the very beginning, I forgot, was, were your mom and dad interested in music? What was...
Well, no. In my family, mom and dad, I had no brothers, no sisters. And as a matter of fact, I was an adopted kid, you know. And mom and dad, they were interested in my music. In fact, they helped me out with it when I was, about 7 years old. They got me my first musical instrument, which was a little violin, you know.
Uh-huh.
I was very interested in music, and they helped me out with that. I was playing a little violin when I was 7.
What, did you hear recordings and that got you interested?
Well, recordings like classical music. We had a Victrola where they had, you know, even jazz pieces, bands, and what have you. And I used to listen to radio and what have you, which turned me on to quite a few little things. And I was, I was a music one in my family, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. So.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
No brothers, no sisters. I was the adopted one, you know.
Uh-huh.
Only one child. And that was it.
I'm going to read, well, this is nothing musical, but Russian Orthodox. Are you Russian Orthodox?
No, I was, this is my second marriage, of course. My recent marriage, of course. About 11 years I've been married this time. And I was married in a Russian Orthodox church.
Uh-huh. That's where that came from, I see.
That's where that came from, yes.
You married Claire Wood.
That's right.
And that was just 11 years ago.
My dear wife, yes.
Uh-huh.
Claire, yes.
You were married before that?
Oh, yes. This is my second marriage, yes.
So we covered Benny Goodman, Art Tatum, Lester Young,
yes,
Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Red Norval,
yes,
Errol Garner,
uh-huh,
Lionel Hampton, Johnny Guarneri,
yes.
Beryl Booker and Johnny Collins and Billy Taylor,
That's beautiful.
Roy Eldridge,
Yes,
and Rose Murphy.
yeah.
Who have I left out?
Ooh, let's see.
That's quite a list right there.
It sure is. Well, I wish I could think a little better than I am. I don't know whom else I could possibly remember. Well, I think that just about covers it.
That's most of them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I want to talk to you forever, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't think of much more to ask you.
Well,
John?
I must say that this whole thing, music, has been my life, and I'm still at it.
Yeah.
That's about all I've done.
I can't imagine myself anyone else who had a career quite like yours.
Yes, it has been. I hope maybe one day, if I can ever get it started, that I will be writing, with some help, of course, writing a book, you know, on myself. And in fact, it has been. A lot of people have come up to me to talk to me about this same particular thing, you know, getting a book out on myself, you know.
I was going to ask you if there was one, or has anybody tried to do...
Yes, there's quite a few, a couple of people have approached me about this same thing.
About a biography?
Yes.
And nobody's really done one yet, though?
No.
I would like to, I'd be willing to help any way I could if you wanted to.
Yes.
Sort of help get us together. You be the focal point.
Oh, yes.
And whatever I'm able to contribute, I would I'd love to do it.
Oh, yes, I appreciate that.
We try to get this all in chronological order, and any bass player that is ever touching a bass, they've got to know who Slam Stewart was.
Oh, yes.
And is.
How about that? Uh-huh.
Definitely.
All right.
You not any plans of coming to Chicago?
Well, I don't know of any. I'll probably be, even if I ever do, which it should be soon, if I'm doing anything with Benny, you know. I usually have, the last time I played there, which wasn't too long ago, I played the Ravinia Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
You know, and what have you. And I'm subject to, if it's possible, I may be coming back to Chicago early next year, you know.
Oh, great.
You know. And in any event, you know, I'll be calling on you.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, would you give me a call for sure?
Right. As a matter of fact, I want your address so that I can keep in touch with you.
Oh, yeah.
John...
Bany.
B-A-N-Y? B-A-N-Y?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is your address, John?
It's 4715
4715
B.
B.
It's the second part of a townhouse. B. Church Street.
Church?
Uh-huh.
B. Church. C-H-U-R-C-H. Street.
Uh-huh. And that's Skokie, Illinois.
Now, how spell that?
Skokie. S-K-O-K-I-E.
S-K-O-P.
K-I-E.
S-K-O-P.
No, S-K-O-K-I-E.
Wait a minute, say that again. S-K...
S-K-O-K-I-E.
Oh, K.
Yeah,
Skokie.
Skokie.
K-I-E.
I believe when you stayed up here...
Skokie, Illinois.
You were only staying like a few blocks from my home at the North Shore Hilton when you were at Ravinia.
That's right. I remember staying at the North Shore there. Yes.
And I didn't know about it until after you left.
How about that?
The Polly Podwell, you remember Polly that sang at Ravinia? The blonde girl?
I think so.
And she told me about it.
How about that?
I see Polly pretty often.
What is that zip code?
600
60076.
76.
And that's 4715 B, like in boy.
Church
Street. Okay.
4715 B Church.
All right.
Well, I'll give you my phone just in case you just give me a call.
Okay.
It's, the area code is 312.
312.
Your number is 677.
677.
1828.
1828. That's good. All right.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how long. Don DeMichael he's the vibist that plays with us. He says in his whole life he never ran across a musician that loved another musician so much.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, that's just because the man is so great. He's so wonderful. I can't help it. It's not my fault.
Well, all right. Oh, gee, well, I want to thank you for everything. It's been so beautiful.
Thank you very much. John McDonough wants to ask you a question.
Yeah, I see.
And I can't thank you enough. This has been really a thrill.
Yeah.
For me.
Tell you what, can you hold the phone a minute?
Sure.
I'd like for you to speak with my wife.
Sure.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, Mrs. Stewart.
I have quite a few things that I've written on Slam. Would it be helpful if I sent them to you?
Oh, yes, it would.
Yeah. Also, I would like to know your date of publication.
I don't know. Do you know a date of publication? A date of publication. John doesn't know.
Well,
probably in the spring, he said.
yeah, I know you have a Because I've said I have a good friend of Dan Morgenstern's, and I used to have to always get things in 6 weeks in advance. That's why I was asking. Well, I have some things. Also, we did a tribute to Earl Garner, and I did a whole brochure for that thing. I'll send that to you. You might be interested in that.
Oh, yes.
Slam is so reticent in talking about himself that it's it's kind of hard to get the facts out of him.
I would appreciate that very, very much.
And so I'll send you what I have.
He's been an idol of mine for 36 years. And,
well, that I hear from everybody.
I'm sure. And I'm only 38, though.
And oh, you started young, didn't you?
My dad was an avid fan of slams.
Uh-huh.
And he played, he'd copy everything off the records.
Oh, my gosh.
And so that was the first thing I ever heard that I can remember.
Well, it's funny because we went to Yale a few weeks ago. Slam goes a couple of times a year. And Willie Ruff asked him to do...
I want to ask him about Willie Ruff.
Oh, it's one of our favorite people in all this world. And we both love him so. And he plays. Oh, man, does he play.
Yeah.
Anyway, Slam was asked... Willie asked him to do a solo that he had done with Dizzy.
Uh-huh.
And Slam said, I don't know it. And Willie says, but every bass man in the world knows that.
Which one? Slam Slam Blues?
Something that he did with Dizzy.
That one might have been Slam Slam Blues.
It could have been.
I do that myself.
And I said, well, everybody knows the solo except the man who did it.
No kidding.
And they had to get a tape for him to listen to because he literally could not remember what he had done. And Willie said, every bass player I know knows that.
That's right. I've even transcribed it and given it out to the bass players.
Well, that's what you're talking about then.
Right.
But Slam could not remember that, and that's about a month. He had no idea what he'd done. So they give you, for instance, yeah, Willie's such a good bass player and plays this beautiful French horn too.
Is Mitchell Ruff? Is he's still around?
You're talking about Dwight Mitchell.
Right.
Oh yes, he's still doing things at the university. He lives in New York, and he goes up, every once in a while Willie calls him in, and they're still playing together, still performing. The Mitchell Ruff duo.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's some kind of magic duo.
Isn't it, though?
Really?
Oh, yeah, they're just... And what a talent Dwight is, and so unheralded. No one knows about him.
Yeah.
And he's such a talent.
Well, what gets me is one of the number of people who are pretty cognizant about jazz, and they're not aware of what Slam's done.
Well...
And I want to get that sort of repaired.
Well, that's beautiful, because it's... I'm aware of it, you're aware of it, and musicians are.
Yeah, but not enough.
But not enough, and there's so much more to be said.
Relative to what it really is, and not enough musicians really know.
And people, for instance, do things that Clark Terry pointed out to me one time. Clark and I were listening to some records, and he was there. We heard this little bass figure, and he says, your husband was the first one to do that. And bass players have been copying it ever since, but Slam never gets credit for originating it.
That's right.
And all of this type of thing, which is a damn shame. They all remember that he bows, but nobody ever realizes what tremendous pizzicato bass he plays.
I'll go into a record store or a library, and I'll try to find Slam Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
And it just isn't indexed that way. All the people that Slam played with are there.
Indexed, but not Slam.
Right.
And you were talking about Nat Hendoff and all these people. Those guys write, but never once have they ever called the man and asked what the way it really is.
I was going to ask you about that.
Now, I got Arnold Shaw in New York. I met Arnold Shaw.
Uh-huh.
And I've always used the Street That Never Slept as a Bible and different things I'm looking up. And I said, you interviewed Slim Gaillard. And you wrote, and Slim told him how they used to go on the Major Bowes Hour and under different names.
Yeah.
And win every time. Not true, dear.
Yeah.
Not true. They went one time. But Slim tells it. Now, Slim's told the lie so many times, he believes it. Arnold said
I know how it gets like that. I worked with Joe Venuti for a while.
You dig what I'm saying? So I said, Arnold Shaw, why didn't you ask Slam?
Yeah. You're aware that in the Smithsonian Institute that there is a written critique of Teddy Wilson with Slam, and he calls what Slam does a gimmick.
Oh, well, it's such a ridiculous.
That's got to get reviewed and undone.
And he's done a lot of harm. Now, I was reading a book a couple of weeks ago with a whole lot of really bad errors and obvious errors. And when a man like Kusevitsky says Slam is one of the brightest young talents in the world.
Yeah.
And then a guy like Ned Hendoff calls it a gimmick. Now, who do you believe, Kusevitsky or Ned Hendoff?
Well, I'm a bass player, and I know the difference.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who do you believe?
Right.
And I've heard Ray Brown and Milt Hinton and another bass player from New York were seated listening to Slam one time with Major Holly and Lynn Christie.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray was mad. He said, how dare they even appear on the same stage with that man?
Oh, yeah.
And he said, Milt, you make mistakes. You know you make mistakes. I make mistakes, but Slam Stewart never does.
Yeah.
You know.
That's one of the most amazing things as I listen to all the recordings that he just never made a mistake.
He doesn't, and he still doesn't.
Like intonation or...
The intonation and the pitch is always exactly right. And I've heard him get up with way avant-garde things and still hear it right.
Uh-huh.
I've seen him start when he first started the Baroque thing, when we first got married, and he started playing Mozart and Bach and all these things. You have no idea what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And he reads it beautifully, he plays it beautifully, and everything he does is perfection. And he'll be doing another concert in February here at the university with the Lennox String Quartet this time. And a harpsichordist. He works with harpsichord. Last year I had arrangements made for Frank West and Slam and a harpsichordist doing Baroque.
Uh-huh.
You haven't lived till you've heard this.
Oh, yeah.
It's just fantastic that the man's ability doesn't quit anywhere.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, he's right.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
And I know that they also, in this book I read, that Slam was not the comedian with Tatum, that he ruined Tatum's sound.
Wait a minute, who wrote that?
Oh, Jesus, it's in this book. It's the one where all of the authors do a different person. Jazz masters or jazz music makers or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was the comedian with Slim Gaillard.
Who wrote the Jazz Masters? That was Gittler? Ira Gittler?
No, it's not them. Do you want me to go get it and tell you?
Yeah.
And read this. You wouldn't believe this passage. It's unreal. It made me madder than a wet hen. Just a moment, I'll get it.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, John.
I'm glad you let me talk to the missus.
There's a lot of things that have happened that I can't even remember myself. She's going to find something that she'll be right back, of course. But anyway, it's so nice meeting you over the phone. That is, you know.
It's my total pleasure. I just can't tell you.
Yes, indeed. Well, anyway.
I'll call my dad up. I'll call him up tonight, and he'll be thrilled just like I am.
Yes. Well, good. What I mean,
it's a form of music that you help create that is kind of forgotten by a lot of younger players.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And it's too good to be forgotten. That's like the basic, one of the basic reasons why I'm totally interested in it every day. I'm interested in it.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
And it's my favorite way to play, too.
I've been, lately, I've been doing a lot of work with a friend of mine. His name is Bucky Pizzarelli. Have you ever heard Bucky's guitar?
Yeah, I've got that album.
The two of us. Oh,
yeah.
You have the album. Oh, great. And what I mean, that's one of the things I've been doing, and it's a really, real kick, you know, just the two of us, to see what we can do. We do pretty well for ourselves, if I must admit, you know.
Now, what did you and Major Holly do together?
Well, we happened to be in France at one of those Newport Jazz festivals over there, you know. And we happened to be on that same scene. A lot of musicians. We recorded this thing over there, which included Major and myself with a third bass player, what's his name, George the Vivier,
Oh, yeah.
and Hank Jones on piano, and a drummer, and what have you. And this is when we did this, about 3 years ago, I think it has been, 2 years ago. And we made an album, and on the album, I don't think you, have you ever heard about it?
I heard about it from Major Holly himself.
Oh, I see.
But I haven't heard the album, no.
The album is called Two Bad Mice. Did he give Two Big Mice or something like that?
Two what?
Two Big Mice.
Two Big Mice.
Yeah. And did he give you the number or anything on that album?
No, he didn't.
Oh, for goodness sakes. If you can hold it, can you hold the phone anyway?
Sure.
Here's my wife again.
All right.
Okay, Jazz Makers. And this is Essays on the Greats of Jazz, Nat Shapiro, Nat Hentoff. This particular one is on Tatum, written by Oren Keepnews. And it says, telling about the formation of the Art Tatum Trio. Now, Slam told you how it was formed. I heard him telling you tonight.
Yeah.
It says it was a move, the addition of Slam and Tiny was a move that seems to have been dictated by commercial considerations.
Oh, yeah.
Adding two showman-like performers to the act, Bull.
Yeah.
Both men were capable musicians, particularly Stewart, who was far more of a driving rhythm man and far less a clown than he was later to become.
Oh, my goodness. Now, where did these guys get that?
Don't you love that?
Oh.
And there were even those who felt it for Tatum no less than for any other current pianist.
Well, one of my main major points is that he was chosen by, first of all, Art Tatum. Well, Slim and Slam was a really magical group. Was a magical
And if you
meeting.
listen to those recordings today, you realize.
I just did.
Well, I'm a little older than you are. I'm 20 years older than you are. But damn it, back in the 40s, I was picking up on these sounds.
Uh-huh.
And what they did is funny, and it's entertaining, and it's musically good.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And
it's musically all together.
But it holds together today. It still sounds good.
That's right.
And Tatum sounds good. And how many times did Tatum say his favorite bass player was Slam Stewart?
Right.
He didn't add him because he needed a gimmick or because it was commercial. He wanted Slam there.
That's right.
That's the way it went down, man. Not what they say.
I can't imagine.
And it's always some stupid white cat who knows what happened.
And they never played bass, and probably never played music.
Have never played bass. Have never asked Slam anything, but write what happened. They've never interviewed Slam Stewart like you're calling.
You
never.
Ask any jazz fan, you ask him, who was Art Tatum? Who was Charlie Parker? Who was Dizzy Gillespie? Who was Benny Goodman? Who was Lester Young? And they know immediately. Okay, Now, who is the bass player they like to use the most? They don't know. I say Slam Stewart to most of the musicians, and they don't even, a lot of them don't even know Slam's work.
And yet he's never done anything but play all his life.
Yeah. Right. And
he's never had to do anything but play, and he's booked constantly.
My point is that it's with the greatest of the masters. And why would they choose anything but the best when they had the choice of any bass player? You know what I mean?
It's like George Wein said, I can't play very good piano, but damn it, when I do, I want Slam Stewart with me.
Yeah.
And he told me that at Kennedy Center a month ago. He said, I want him there because I'm sure of what he's going to do. He's not going to be playing a solo when I am. And Clark Terry loves him. Dizzy loves him. Everybody loves him. And it's just, I just can't believe what the writers have done to him, what they haven't done for him. And when they do write, they print all wrong information.
That's the kind of misunderstanding that I would like to get corrected. I'm sure you would, too.
He did 6 hours of an oral history for the Smithsonian, and he got quite a few good licks on there.
Okay, we can keep working on this together, I hope.
Oh, I'll be happy to.
Great.
He also did a 2.5-hour oral history for Yale University, and I corrected a lot of the misprints in that one, and gave the kids books to look up. I said, look, this is wrong, and I don't want the university students studying things on Slam in the archives and take that as truth, because it's not true.
Can you tell me how I can get a copy of that?
Of the oral history for Yale?
Yes.
Yeah, right, Dean, or right, Willie Ruff.
And he's at Yale?
Oh, yeah, he's a professor of music there.
I wasn't
And
aware
all
of
you
that.
got to do is write at Yale University, care of the School of Music, New Haven, Connecticut.
Attention, Willie Ruff.
Attention, Willie Ruff. And he'll get it, and he'll notice what you're talking about, and you talk to him the way you're talking to me, because he'll dig every word you're saying.
All right.
And he'll know, because he and I have gone over this up and down and crossways of the ridiculous things that are happening.
Yeah.
Willie did a thing for Yale you wouldn't believe when he gave all the fellows fellowships, all the cats, you know.
Uh-huh.
He could not get one television station, one major publication, or anybody to give him any kind of publicity or any recognition. He did one of the biggest jazz things that's ever been held in this country.
Uh-huh.
And because they were all black, he couldn't get a damn thing done.
Oh.
Now, I ask you, yeah, you're sighing, and so am I. But what can you do? That's what he's fighting.
Yeah. Well, bass players traditionally are sort of left out when it comes to, like you hear the trumpet and the lead player and the singer. But a masterful bass player and one of the nature and stature of Slam can't be forgotten. No way.
A great thing happened that day. Each instrument had a young musician or one of the unknowns, or lesser known, shall I say, do a tribute. They had to do a solo. Richard Davis got on a stage by himself with his bass. He took the bow out of the shaft, took the shaft off the bass, and laid them at his feet.
Yeah.
He says, no bass player in his right mind tries to bow a bass when Slam Stewart's in the house.
Yeah, Michael Moore told me that once, too.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
Michael said one time that he was playing in New York, I forget where, and Slam came in and sat
Gregory's.
Was it Gregory's?
It was at Gregory's. I was with him, yeah.
And he said that it was rather noisy that night, and when Slam got up, the magic just happened. Everybody turned around and went, what is that?
Right. And I've seen it happen so many times, it's not funny. I saw it happen at the Hotel Pierre one night, probably about the same time. Bucky was playing there with his group, and it was noisy. The place was filled, and when Slam got up, it was like complete, absolute quiet.
Yeah.
Like 500 people stopped eating and stopped talking.
Did Slam ever meet or run across Clifford Brown?
I did.
You did, but Slam did.
But Slam didn't.
That was like one of the, I think, ultimate jazz players.
Oh, my God. I cried so when he got killed. Because, see, Clifford, there was another thing. Clifford got recorded in the wrong way mostly.
Yeah.
But Clifford loved to do pretty ballads.
Uh-huh.
And when I tell him he did, when I tell people he did, it's, oh, he couldn't play that. To hell he couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he could just make you cry.
Yeah.
What a sad thing, That was so sad. I knew him, maybe 3 years before he died.
And Slam and Clifford, their paths just never met, huh?
Just never crossed, no.
Yeah.
And it, what a shame.
Yeah, that was one of the rare people that Slam didn't get to.
Well, I met him
connected
through
with.
Chris Powell.
Uh-huh.
And Chris Powell is gone now, too. But Chris had first found this kid when he was 16 years old with sweaters with the holes in, and everything. He had to get permission from his mother to take him on the road. That's before Max Roach ever heard of him.
Uh-huh.
All this kind of bit.
Well, I didn't ask Slam about Charlie Mingus either. He must have...
Well, I'll tell you, Charlie... Their paths didn't cross much either, but there was great love there. I remember being at Yale, and Charlie was there. He got a fellowship. And Charlie was crying almost because everything was so wrong for him. And we rode back to the hotel with him, and he was talking to me about Slam. And he says, that man taught me so much, you'll never know how much he taught me.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I'm not only talking about music. He says, about little things. He taught me how to put a bass in a car.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that until Slam taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
And all these kind of things. And we got out of the car, and Charlie's out in the middle of the road with his arms up, stopping the traffic so nobody will hurt Slam in the bass.
Yeah.
He's stopping the traffic. And then he wouldn't let Slam carry it. He said, no, he doesn't have to carry his bass when I'm here. I carry it. Does that give you an idea?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
oh, sure.
And Charlie didn't want to be close to anybody, but he just couldn't stop telling me how much he loves it, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought about that when he died. I said, well, there was one person he loved, and that was Slam.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't stop telling me every time I saw it.
Well, Major Holly, I told Slam, Major Holly says, I just recently did one of the greatest things of my whole life.
Yeah.
And I said, what's that? And he says, I made a recording with Slam Stewart. And I went, yeah, I can believe that, sure. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what happens. Slam will come home, or Major will stop, and he's got another present for Slam. And he just buys if he gets something that's great for himself, Slam has to have it too. Like a great leather case for the bow that he found in Japan. A whole thing that you put the bass and carry like luggage that he found. A whole thing. They know it cost him a bundle. Got one for himself. Also gave one to Slam.
Yeah.
And all this. So it's great love. I went down to see Slam at Hopper's just before that place closed. I looked around the room, and there was Bill Pemberton, Red Callender, Michael Moore. The whole room, every bass player that didn't have a gig that night was there.
Yeah.
And all of them just looking at him, with such love. And I said, well, and you talk to Ray Brown about Slam, and you'll find the same love and admiration. And like the bass players know it, the greats know it.
The bass players know it.
The bass players know it, right. And he's such a beautiful person.
Just get everybody else to understand it and listen to it from that aspect.
Oh, we got this call from New York University for Slam to go to New York, and the cat says there's not much money to it in it, but it's a tribute to Roy Eldridge. And he said, when I first asked Roy, who are the people who are important to him in his career, who should we ask? He said the first name that came out of his man's mouth was Slam Stewart.
Yeah.
So we're going to go,
Well, that's one of the main... Well, in the first place, I've been totally in love with Slam for, I told you, 36 years. And my dad was before me. And that's what I want to get corrected.
Well, what we are finding that happens, Slam is still director of jazz workshops at the university. And if they present anything, he does it. And he gets the grant for it. When he goes to Yale, you should see the love these kids have for him.
And what's this at Yale? It's called a vocal history?
No, you call them oral histories.
Oral histories.
Slam did an oral history for the archives. He did it last year in April.
Smithsonian has something like that, too?
And the Smithsonian has a 6-hour thing. I don't think they've released it yet, but they've got it. They do have it, and you might ask them when it will be released.
All right.
Smithsonian has 6 hours, right? The reason I don't think it's released yet is because it hasn't been sent to us to edit yet. We've got to edit it before they can release it.
Okay.
And more and more people are doing oral histories now. He also did one for Arana University here, but I don't know about that one. Now that's a little bit different because that was a rather historical thing for the New York State Historical Society. But the one at Smithsonian will be the good one.
They have that transcribed?
They should have it transcribed by now.
And I can get a copy of that probably when
What they're going to do is rent the copies, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And you can ask them when that's going to be released at the Smithsonian. They should have some information on it. They're about to release a new Tatum thing, too, with Slam. Because Art's wife is still living, which we didn't realize, Gertrude Tatum, because they had to get her permission and Slam's to release it. and they sent us a copy of her letter giving them permission at the Smithsonian. So there's another one coming out there, a previously unreleased thing, I guess. They haven't released yet.
Well, when we get this put together, we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Make sure you check it out.
And now, if there's anything I can do to help you,
Oh, yeah, I appreciate
please
that.
let me know, because I've written so much about him and I've done so much research on it that I pretty much know about everything, you know. That I could, even if he's not here, I can help you with it.
Slam's got my address. I was wondering, can you send me just anything you've got?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Would you please?
Well, you know I will.
Good.
I'll be happy to. That's why I wrote him a note to get your address. Now, he's got this record number for you. Just a moment.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Now, I found that record,
Okay.
and it's called, of course, Two Big Mice.
Two Big Mice.
Yes. Now, this was recorded on July 14th, 1977, at Radio Monte Carlo Studio in France. And it's on the label is Black and Blue, SARL, whatever that means. But anyway, on side A starts out with Slam Mew. You know what his name, they always call him Mule, you know.
Mule.
Mule. That's his nickname. Major Holly?
I can picture that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that, did you?
No.
We always call him, you know, nickname, Mew. Hey, Mew. So we got together, and I wrote a song about he and I, and it's called Slam Mew.
Uh-huh.
And you might get a kick out of that when you hear it. But anyway, this starts out side A with Slam Mew. The second number is What Is This Thing Called Love? The third number on this album is Three Blind Mice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on side B is a French number, and it's written by Andre Persiane, and it's called Ar Nice Au Pays de Marvilliers. Means marvelous or something. But anyway, it's a French number, which we did. That's the first number on side B. And the second number is by Major Mew. It's called Ethel's Oldest Boy. And the third number that we do on side B, it's called Mama Don't Allow No Bass Playing in Here.
Uh-huh.
And we'll finish out the album.
Well, what's the number of the album?
The number of the album is 33, period, 124. And there's a Y after that. Circle, a Y. 33, period, 124, Y.
I'll be able to get that if I order it?
I think you can. You might inquire with someone there in Chicago who has a record shop. They might know.
Yeah.
This record was recorded in France, you know, and they might know about it.
Okay. And your wife's name's Claire?
Claire, yes.
She says she's going to send me a lot of stuff, and that's really going to help me a lot.
Oh, yes. I know this. Claire and I, we've been together now 11 years now, and it's one of the most wonderful things that has happened to me in all of my life. It's been a beautiful situation all the way.
Yeah, I can sense it.
And I hope so hope that we can get together one of these days, real soon.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
Yes, indeed.
John wants us to conclude this.
Yes.
So, did you want to talk, Slam? Slam, I can't tell you how much I love you.
Oh, yes.
Love everything you've
Art.
been doing.
Yes.
All my life. It
Oh, my.
meant so much. Still means so much.
That's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that. And, John, it's been so wonderful. What can I say?
I don't know what to say. I just thank you.
All right. Yes. So anyway.
And I'll be in touch with you, and I'll be in touch with Claire, too,
Good.
because she says that she'll help me, and the offer goes, I'll help her any way I could, too, although I'm sure that she knows a lot more about it than I do.
Oh, yes, right. And did she ever tell you that she plays piano?
No, she didn't say that.
Yes, she does. We've done a little work together. School work around here, and quite a bit. We've done a lot of things. We have a program that we present now and then for schools, from kindergarten on up, and it's called Jazz Illustrated. And we've been very successful with it, And everything helps, That's it.
Well, I love you. I love you forever.
Okay. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everything, love and everything for you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.